Man, Clark Lee adds a playmaker in the secondary.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I am your host, Corey Burton. In today's episode, we break down the impact of new cornerback Mark Davis in Clark Lee's defense. Also, Vandy's shorthanded pitching staff could not get the job done against Mississippi State. What does this do for Vandy's postseason opportunities? What does Vandy have to do to kind of pick up the pieces? So, thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it is a big, big fan of Monopoly Go, which is the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go free on the App Store or Google Play. So anyway, Mark Davis, late last week, he committed to Vanderbilt out of the portal. And this is great news. And I'm sure you guys know the tale of the tape, and I'm sure every you know a lot of things about him. He's come from Southern Illinois and things like that. But listen, when it comes to the cornerback position, this guy's a playmaker. Okay. When it comes to the cornerback position, 6'2", 200-pounders don't just fall out of trees, especially in college football. I mean, this guy from Southern Illinois, transferred from Buffalo originally, this will be his third destination, is going to be an absolute stud. And a lot of the same things that I said about Colby Taylor coming from Wyoming are very much the similar things I'm going to say about Mark Davis Jr. And one of the things I really, really love about Mark Davis Jr. is the fact that you look over there could be a chance at one point in the ball game that you could have 6'4" Colby Taylor on one side, 6'2", 200 Mark Davis on the other. And you could, in some spread sets, you could also have Marlon Jones in on the slot. So you could have three transfer guys out there, all big physical coverage guys, corners that can do a lot of various different things. And so what this does, okay, why is this exciting? Okay, why am I saying that 6'2", 200 pounds as a cornerback is exciting? Well, for one, on perimeter run game, he is a physical, imposing defender out there. So you can do a lot of things where you play cover two looks, maybe you play press man, and maybe you do things corner blitz, you off the, from the boundary. Like you've got so many possibilities with a bigger corner that you wouldn't have with a guy, say, like 5'10", 180, right? Not saying that guy couldn't do that kind of thing, but at 6'2", 200 pounds, you seem to factor into the run defense. Maybe you can have some looks where the corner's primary run support and the safety's over the top. There's some opportunities where the safety is down and run support and the corner's back over the top. There's a lot of creativity that you have within the scheme now because you have physical bodies at safety, physical bodies at corner, and good coverage guys as well. So looking at what stats he brings to the table, last season, 32 tackles, 1.5 for loss, 3 interceptions, and 7 pass breakups. And so he was all Missouri Valley Conference honorable mention. And he is somebody that probably honestly didn't get tried too much as out there at cornerback. Now, if there's something you want to see, right, go look up Saluki football, which is SIU_football. If you want to kind of see what he brings to the table, that's what he brings to the table. 6 turnovers forced through 2 weeks by the defense. They had 5 interceptions through the first 2 weeks. Mark Davis was the centerpiece of all of that, and he is somebody that's going to be outstanding for this defense. So I'm excited to see how he fits into the scheme, how him out there, having him out there in run support helps with the defensive line. Maybe you do some more interior blitzes. There's a lot of possibilities that open up in just run situations because you have him out there, because you have Colby Taylor out there. You have two big, massive, big giants out there, and you add depth. The guys that are already on campus. Marcus Height is another one that's going to be really good for this ball club. And Marlon Jones, when he gets in the summer as well, he was all Big Sky. He was all conference at Eastern Washington. So he's going to come in as that dynamic playmaker guy. Now there's some coverage guys. There's some smaller, faster, more cornerback type guys that'll play in deep coverage. And then there's these two guys that probably bring a lot of swag with them when they, when you look at the cornerback position and how those guys play. So, also in the pass game now. So the impact in the run game is there. You have a big physical guy that can come and set the edge, especially to the boundary. Because if you want to run outside zone to the boundary, pin and pull to the boundary, or even like some sort of like double option, he's somebody that can be primary run support, defeat a block, and tackle something for no gain. He's somebody that if you want to really get fancy with some of your pressures, he's somebody that can come as well, especially in run situations. He's somebody that can come off the edge and really disrupt a lot of things. Now, in the passing game, here's where it also gets tricky. All right, here's where it also gets fun for Clark Lee and where it gets tricky for opposing offenses. When you look out there, okay, there's some sort of the psychological effect alone. Pass game, run game, whatever. Pass game, since we're talking about it. The psychological effect of looking out there and seeing some big giant dude towering over your receiver, right? And receivers are bigger now anyway. So those guys inherently are getting taller. So cornerbacks inherently have to get taller or they have to get higher vertical leaps. But just imagine looking out there and your face mask to face mask with 6'2", 200 pounds. A guy that probably looks like a strong safety or an outside linebacker. He's out there about to put his mitts on you, right? Just imagine as a quarterback looking out there, scanning. Oh, this is not good. And then you look to the other side. Okay, maybe I'll go to the other side. Okay. Nope, 6'4". 6'4", 215. Oh, boy. So just the psychology of it already puts the quarterback in a little bit of panic. And so by doing that gives you a little bit of a psychological edge, at least on that play. Maybe not long term. Maybe there's some other things at play with the matchup. But at the very least, these are still college kids, and a lot of times you're going up against freshmen and guys that haven't really played much, especially in the transfer portal era. And any sort of psychological edge you can get is great, because if you can rattle a guy, especially if you're at home, and Vandy's going to have the weird environment, being a construction site, and there's all kind of stuff happening, all kind of weird things happening with the stadium, and there's already all this stuff going on, all this weird stuff going on. Why not throw in the extra element of you have two giant cornerbacks sitting out there and to freak out a quarterback? And if a quarterback freaks out, unforced errors happen. He might hold on to the ball too long, and Corday Sindor might get there, or there's some sort of twist stunt, AB blitz with the nose guard and the will linebacker, Langston Patterson. There might be something there. There's something that there's a lot of things that even just by freezing the quarterback, there's a lot of blitzing that you can have happen. The quarterback's too busy thinking about, oh crap, Mark Davis is out there. He's 6'2", 200 pounds. He's about ready to jam my receiver at the line of scrimmage and not let him off. And you don't see a blitz coming, and you get crushed because you should have changed the protection. You should have checked the protection to account for the linebacker coming off the edge and hitting you between the shoulder blades. Next thing you know, that happens, ball pops out. You just got a turnover because your guy's 6'2", 200 pounds and has a psychological edge. Now, taller guys Now the downside is with taller guys playing corner is backpedaling and hip turning and things like that. Now, already they can hip turn and backpedal better than me. So that's without question. So take all this with a grain of salt. But usually the taller guys have a little bit more trouble with that transition. And so with that, you might see them play a little bit of zone, which you can still play a hard cover too and really press and funnel to the inside so that you have safety help over the top. But nonetheless, these guys are good. And I'm really excited about the idea that Vandy's starting to present these bigger, more physical corners, right? Maybe Colby Taylor and Mark Davis rotate for each other. Maybe they play the boundary side because holy cow, like quarterbacks like to throw into the boundary a lot, especially in quick games, especially in RPO, because it's a shorter throw and they can get it out there quicker. But if you have a big space eater out there that kind of clogs things up and kind of gives you the illusion that that space is completely wiped out and that there's nothing going to happen there, that does something. And with Clark Lee's defense, the way it's drawn up, just that illusion with the amount of movement they have up front can really distract. Now, hopefully as an opponent, your offensive line can check that, and they're going to have to, because he's going to be like, oh, okay, all right, we got this, okay, we got that, all right, we got number one back there. He's been giving me nightmares all day long. All right, we got 6'4" over there, 6'2" over here. He's coming off the edge. Okay. There's a lot of thinking, right? You hear the thought process can get kind of overwhelming, and so when, like I said, that's the name of the game: overwhelm the quarterback. And he's made a play without doing anything. He's made a play just because he's 6'2". Ball hadn't come to him, nothing. He made a play because he's out there physically imposing face mask to face mask with the opposing receiver. So that's why I love it. The plays are going to come to him. He's going to have opportunities, and there's going to be a lot of plays that he makes that don't show up in the stat sheet. And that's why he's a playmaker. That's why he's a vital piece. That's why he is somebody that can be physically intimidating, physically imposing, thus a playmaker. Even if he's not directly making plays, he is a playmaker. And that's what you want. That's what this defense wants. And that's going to be the identity of this team. So, speaking of playmakers, baseball needs some. Vandyboys falter this weekend against Mississippi State. Man, what happened? And we'll talk about it next. All right, this episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. You bet. I have a competitive side, okay? I know it. And the game's off. Got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You already talked about that. But there's just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with your friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get. Unique stickers. You can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes. You can have cool new pieces to travel the boards with. You have hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton includes their unique mini games like digging for treasure or robot pachinko machine. There's always new timed events to help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now. Free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. Right. Welcome back. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Do you have to turn down the volume with all that shouting, and all that shouting about Michael Penix Jr. going to the Falcons? Well, make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Speaking of the everydayers, man, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for making all of this possible. Thank you for hanging with me. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for helping me bring Vandy content your way. We're going to take over the SEC. We're going to dominate Nashville. So we're going to drive all that orange out of here. It's going to be Vandy town. And that's where we need you. We need you to tell everybody you know. Everybody that has a star V, everybody that has that V, or whatever V they're rocking with right now, we need it. If we want to take over Nashville, get rid of all that orange. Orange, gross. All right, so it's a big hearty thank you. Follow us. It's scrolling right here down below. So, Vandyboys. I can't say that was the best series of all time. They go down. They lose 2-1 in the 3-game set, and it was, Sundays was described as a kick in the nuts. That's a direct quote from Tim Corbin. He actually said that. That's not just a paraphrasing. He said it's a kick in the nuts. So it feels like they had a chance to win, and they put themselves, and they made a couple of mistakes down the stretch there on Sunday, and it was not good. And then, Saturday game 2, again, just dropping that one, just costly, man. And so you have to understand that, when you give up these big shots, when you make errors, when you walk guys, and when you can't get runs in, and your offense kind of falls apart. You only score 4 runs on 8 hits on Saturday, and those 8 hits are scattered. When you give up a massive home run, when you can't take advantage of when your guys hit for power like Espinal, he hit one that hasn't landed yet. And you have to be able to take advantage of when your guys do that, because you're coming off a Friday game where Bryce Cunningham does what he is supposed to do, does what this pitching staff has to do. He throws a complete game shutout to win game 1, and that's exactly what was needed coming into this game, because you're already shorthanded as a pitching staff. Now you have to go and help yourself. And so guess what? If you shut them out, doesn't matter how many runs you score. If you shut them out, all you got to do is score 1. And so, pitching came through on Friday, didn't necessarily come through on Saturday, and faltered late on Sunday. And so here you are with now looking up, not controlling your own destiny as far as hosting a regional. I mean, I still think postseason play is in the picture still. So I think Vandy's going to a regional. I think they've played well enough, and they're talented enough to be able to make it to a regional. But as far as hosting one, not sure. That's slipping away day by day and chance by chance. That is kind of sliding right through the fingertips. So, but like I said, not all is lost. And this is something that can easily be fixed. This is something that is still well within reach, and you can still go as a number 2 seed to a regional and make a run. Given that you make some improvements, given that you figure out what needs to happen and do the things that you need to do in order to put yourself in the best situation to win. And that's get your guys healthy from the pitching staff, get J.D. Thompson off of suspension, get some guys healthy, and be able to essentially throw shutout baseball. And really start to kind of pitch heavy baseballs and not let a whole lot of runs across. That's the first thing you can do. The second thing while your pitching staff is working to get guys out, you have to give them help offensively. You can't have these sporadic bursts of runs and think you're going to survive in postseason play, because teams are good in the postseason. I don't know if you guys know that. I don't know if Vandy knows that. But the other team that you're going to play against is good, and they're going to have good pitching. So you've got to have guys that can come in and rake the ball, and you've got to have guys that you've got to find ways to score more than 3-4 runs, because your pitching staff, I love them. I love the pitching staff, but they can't hold up that consistently, that constantly, night after night after night, day after day after day. There's going to be games where you're going to have to win 10-9, 11-7, those type of games. Like there's going to be games where you're forced to score. If you don't score 13 runs, you're not winning. And that's no fault of the pitcher. It's just the way college baseball is, with the metal bats, the weather conditions, the design of the ballpark, all of that stuff factors in. And next thing you know, there's baseballs flying out of the yard, and now you don't know which way is up. And your offense, if your offense isn't built to score runs and score runs quickly, then, well, you're going to be in a world of hurt. And then you're going to be going home after the regionals, after losing to Arizona or Cal State Fullerton or whoever's hosting the regional. And you're going to be wondering, okay, what the heck happened? And then, we'll talk in the next episode. I'm talking about what went wrong and how can we fix it through the transfer portal and through recruiting in the off season. But if you want to talk about now, what can we do to win the super regional? You've got to fix your offense. You've got to have guys in the lineup. You've got to construct your lineup to where you can score and score quickly if you need to, and you can beat good pitching, because right now you can't beat good pitching, and that's a problem. So we're going to continue this discussion. What now? How do you improve it? Who's the guys? Who should you feature? All of that good stuff. We're going to talk about that next. Stay tuned. All right. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You bet. FanDuel, it's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. The Preds just went down 3-1. Speaking of heartbreaking losses, baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel's your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. Speaking of easy to bet, I bet it's easy to bet against the White Sox. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. This episode is also brought to you by Gametime. Speaking of MLB, have you ever had a frustrating ticket buying experience? Well, if you're buying White Sox tickets, you certainly have not. But Gametime is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer you get to first pitch. Or if you're going to a White Sox game, Gametime might actually pay you to go to the game. No, I'm just kidding. That's not part of the deal. So with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, even the lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes all the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. So what do I love? Okay. I love the last minute deals. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. The flash deals are amazing. You can save even more with exclusive in-app deals. So there's things that pop up anytime you open the app. Those are cool. Seat views, the panoramic view from your seat before you buy. I want to sit in section 111, row K, seat 13. I want to see what that looks like. If I'm going to be in foul ball range, I want to know. Gametime allows you to do that. They also have the lowest ticket price guaranteed. And if you find one that's lower, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. So your purchase is always covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right. Welcome back. Third and final segment. We're going to take this show to a close here in the next few minutes, but thank you to the everydayers for making all this possible. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. Thank you for spreading the word. All right, Locked on Vandy is we're going this way. We're going up. So get on board. But make sure you make Locked On SEC your next listen, and make sure you listen to all the shows around this conference. This conference is covered by a lot of great shows like Locked On Auburn, Locked On Ole Miss, Locked On Bulldogs, all those shows, man. Locked On LSU. Everyone does a great job in this conference. You should listen, and you should, after you listen to me, of course. So that being said, Vandyboys, you might want to listen to me too. Well, actually, no. Tim Corbin's pretty good at coaching baseball, so I'll leave it to him to kind of make these adjustments. But this is what I see for whatever it's worth, which, judging by your subscriptions, it's worth quite a bit. And I appreciate you. And thank you, everydayers, once again. So what now? How do you pick up the pieces? Well, the winning recipe is obviously finding more offense, right? That's the come on, Corey. I know that's obvious, but what do you like? How do you get in those situations, right? You have a lineup that's not built for that, but you have a few pieces that can help kind of get things going. So the next best thing is, if you can't add pieces, like in Major League Baseball, you can sign guys off the street, right? You can bring guys up from AAA. Not the case here. So here's what you do know. You know that Alan Espinal, he's got to be behind the plate. All right. Maybe Camden Kozel goes in at second. He came in today for Jaden Davis. Maybe he goes in at second so that Jack Bolger can come in as a DH. You know, you've got to find a spot where Jonathan Vastine can use his speed elitely. Matthew Polk is somebody that's been able to he's been able to produce a little bit. Troy Leneve, got to find ways to get him in better situations at the plate. So maybe surround him with guys that you can't necessarily and don't necessarily want to pitch around. So maybe you construct your lineup to where he is hit, or he is optimally, I know not every scenario is created equal, but not optimally hitting with guys on base. Excuse me. So it's all in how, you got to find the right lineup construction. You got to find that. You got to find the right mix of guys. You got to find the right order. And I know that's easy for me to sit up here in my home studio here and say, oh, well, they need to change the lineup. They need to put this guy and this guy and this guy in. And that's easy for me to say, way more difficult for Tim Corbin to do. But from what I see, obviously this iteration of the lineup isn't quite working. There's guys that are doing some things, but doing those things when nobody's on, doing those things in situations to where maybe they're a little bit more exposed, where, you have a guy that's slumping a little bit and the pitcher knows that, and the pitcher can get himself in a situation where he puts you, who's on a hot streak, on base, pitches to that guy, and that guy hits into a double play or strikes out, right? Getting guys in the lineup where, you have a couple power guys back to back to where he's not to where opposing pitcher now has to think about, okay, how do I want to pitch Leneve versus Braden Holcomb? Now I got RJ Austin on deck and Jonathan Vastine sitting out there at second base. How do I want to pitch this now? Because that's potential for 5 runs right there, because all those guys can hit. Alan Espinal is crushing the ball right now, and he's probably one of Vandy's best catchers, right? And so you've got to find ways to get those guys in favorable situations to where they're surrounding their speed with power. So you get the speed guys on, they wreak havoc, they stress out the pitcher, and the pitcher makes mistakes, and bam, next thing you know, 469 feet on top of Memorial Gym, right? So it's all about finding that right mix. And I know Tim Corbin can do that. I trust that Tim Corbin can do that. He's won 2 national championships. He's been in a bunch of postseason baseball play. He knows how to construct that lineup. The challenge is with this particular lineup is finding the right mix, because it's an odd lineup. It's an odd mix of speed and power, where there's not a whole lot of power, there's a whole lot of speed, and how do you mix the two? And he just hasn't. Some days he's found it, some days he hasn't. But it's just finding that right order of those guys and the right pieces to kind of fit together in that puzzle is the key. And you should still have faith in that. And you shouldn't be overly discouraged, and you shouldn't be thinking the world is collapsing and the sky is falling and all that stuff, because everything is still right in front of you, just like normal. And so it's just figuring it out. And that's what baseball is. Baseball is figuring that out day to day and trying to get the most consistent lineup out there day in and day out. So that's the struggle with that sport. And everybody struggles with it unless you just get a bunch of meathead hitters like A&M and you just throw them in there together and say, okay, just although Georgia did a number on them this weekend. So I was happy to see that. But anyway, time flies when you're having fun. So that's going to do it for us here today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Vandy your first listen. We hope you have a great rest of your evening, rest of your day. We hope you have a great week, and we'll definitely see you back here tomorrow. But until then, you know the drill. As always, anchor down, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Peace.